Into the balance sheet. I'm going to talk about something. It's been a busy week here. If you hadn't heard already, a special forces soldier who placed a bet against or on the removal of President Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela has been arrested for that bet. Now, if you remember, I made a video earlier about this. Yeah, I know it was AI, but I did a lot of research and tried to figure out whether it was an outsider, an insider. I had my suspicions it might be an insider, but I didn't expect a military member who was actually on the team carrying a rifle to be the guy who placed these bets. But now we know it's out there. Federal investigators say the soldier bet more than $33,000 hours before Trump announced Maduro's capture. That's not exactly accurate. The bets were placed over time. I'll show you that in a bit. There's a guy named Gannon Ken Van Dyke. He was an E8 from Fort Bragg, and they say special forces, but I'll get into that a little bit later. He was not an ordinary Green Beret. He was definitely involved in this, had his own ass on the line, made some money doing something that everybody knows Congress and everyone in the Oval Office has been doing ever since the start of this corrupt presidency, and even before that. It's just people are looking at this saying, WTF, what's going on here? Anyway, he's facing 60 years in jail for wire fraud, for unlawful monetary transaction, violating the Commodity Exchange Act. Yeah, the CFTC is involved in this, Commodity Futures Exchange Commission. They, even though you think they'd only regulate commodity futures, they actually have authority over prediction markets, even though, curiously enough, they don't get involved in crypto. Anyway, there's been a lot of discussion from people like Mike Flynn. Of all people, he should know not to talk to federal agents, and I really hope that this guy who was accused, when he got a phone call from the FBI or however it happened, you shut your mouth. Okay, this isn't legal advice. This is just good advice. Federal officer wants to talk to you. I don't care if it's just, hey, come on down to the station. We want to talk to you. No, you can talk to my attorney, and then we'll see about talking to you. But I don't talk to federal agents. It's just how it has to be. But who knows if he did that or not? Even in the military, Sergeant Major's chewing his ass. What about this? Sorry, Sergeant Major, this investigation. I need to talk to my lawyer. That's it. That's it. No further, nothing. And hopefully he did that because if he thinks he can talk his way out of this, these guys are good at what they do. And if he said some material facts, material statements during this investigation, he might have just dug himself deeper. Anyway, General Flynn here was talking about the UCMJ being involved. That's not what's going on right now. It's actually happening at the Southern District of New York, which is a federal court, and it says New York, even though he was living in North Carolina at Fort Bragg. New York handles all of the financial transactions because if it's wire fraud, it uses the wires, it goes through the banking system, and this is what they like to do. They go to New York, and defense is going to try to move them out of there back to North Carolina. I don't think that's a death sentence for him if he goes to New York instead of North Carolina. People saying, oh, well, they don't like the military there. Well, they don't like Trump either. And everybody knows how corrupt Trump is. They know how corrupt this administration is. They see an underdog pull off a $400,000 win on something he was directly involved in. I don't know. That jury might say, hey, sorry, I don't see anything wrong here. Now, during voir dire, that's what it's called when they quiz the jurors, they're going to try to weed those kind of people out. They're going to try to get rid of the people who have one political bias or the other. But you're still pulling people from Brooklyn, from the Bronx, from Manhattan. I don't know. It's not a slam dunk for the federal government here. But what they're going to try to do is show that he leaked material, non-public information. Now, it's important to remember this because it doesn't have to be classified. It's not a Snowden case necessarily. It just has to show that it's non-public, it's material, and he traded upon it or leaked it. Now, I can't imagine that he leaked it because he didn't leak it. They say or bet. Leaked or bet. I don't know. Is betting leaking it? Is acting upon it? I don't know. But it doesn't have to be classified. It just has to be non-public and material. So if in fact he fessed up to that, he's goes as cooked. He's going to be looking for some kind of a plea deal he'll take because he doesn't want to do 60 years in the federal pen. That's probably what's going to happen if I had to guess. But if he was smart enough to keep his mouth shut and he's got a good lawyer, he does stand a fighting chance. Now, yes, he had signed an NDA. He had a legal duty of trust. But still, you have to come down. What information? He was not the only one playing in this market. These contracts they bet on, he didn't write these contracts. There are about 4 of them, different ones about, is Trump going to invade Maduro, to capture Maduro in January? Is this going to happen before then? There were already questions out there in Polymarket that he participated in. And some people are saying, yeah, well, the fact he was there, that's not enough. You got a little bit more than just trust me bro going on here. They're going to say he was inside the classified planning cell. He signed the paperwork promising not to monetize it. I'm curious if the paperwork actually said that. Did it actually say that he can't monetize it? Was it updated to that? Don't know. So we'll find out through discovery what the papers actually said, what he agreed to, and if they can actually pin it on him. Now, how the bets actually went. It was not one gigantic bet of $33,000. The bets went from December 27th, December 30th, January 1st, January 2nd, broken down into chunks like that. So 13 bets, $33,000, which if you're an EA in the Army, you don't just have that kind of change lying around. They're not going to pay that much. So for him to, he's putting his own ass on the line and his own money on the line, and he wants to win. So I don't know. This is going to look to a jury anyway, like, what's the problem? Now, on paper, I don't care if it is illegal. A lot of people are going to be thinking and asking the same kind of questions I'm asking here. Anyway, these are the bets. That's how it got placed. I thought the guy would look like this guy, but anybody's old enough to remember old Pete Rose. Wrong uniform, but yeah, Pete Rose actually, he bet on himself too, I think. But anyway, I thought that was kind of funny. Here's the gent right here. What's his name? Gannon. Ken Van Dyke. He's suggesting here this Twitter account. I definitely see a path for President Trump pardoning the U.S. soldier who bet on it. I do too. I think it'd be a huge victory for Trump to do that. He'd get a lot of support, especially from his MAGA base. Most of them wouldn't have a problem with him getting pardoned. A lot of them would be pissed off if he actually did go to prison over this, because we all know how corrupt Washington is. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle this. I don't know if Trump is still sane enough to realize what a good move looks like, but cross your fingers. Now, did he put anybody else at risk by this? No. There was no massive spike, as we talked about. Early bets were small. They blended into the platform noise. This kind of money going into Polymarket is not unusual. The bet contracts already existed. He participated. The prediction markets, again, see this kind of activity regularly. Speculators pile into hot contracts all the time. And look, there's all kinds of information out there before the movement. There was Freddy's Beach Bar, which is a bar not too far from the Pentagon, was dead that night. It was a Friday night, and nobody was there. So, I mean, if you're going to use information like that, okay, is that public, non-public? I mean, I don't know. They're communicating things like that, based on something. No public evidence or pre-raid detection. Neither the indictment or the CFTC complaint, as I mentioned before. DOJ, Polymarket. There's no indication that anybody in Venezuela got a hold of that. And frankly, nor could they necessarily. They could be monitoring all of Polymarket and not necessarily notice these little bets being placed on stuff that were already there. Now, I mean, if they're going to be alerted to anything, it's the fact that somebody wrote these contracts and people think they're going to get raided. Well, you might as well go after Polymarket itself then, if that's going to be the argument. Now, what is his lawyer going to say? He's going to say there's no specific material non-public information proven. As I mentioned earlier, you can't just trust me, bro. You can't guilt by association. You got to show it. It's going to say the information was effectively public. Remember now, Trump was saying, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Months ahead, numerous times, he was talking about invading Venezuela. There were aircraft carriers off the coast, for God's sake. I mean, this was not a big secret. Like I said, Pentagon pizza order spikes, Freddy's Beach Bar, Austin, open prediction market chatter. I mean, everybody saw this coming. Okay, no breach of duty. The NDA does not prohibit the conduct. Does it actually say that you can't trade off of it? Not explicitly prohibited by any regulation he signed. If that's exactly what it is, I don't have a copy of it, but that's a good chance that it's not actually in there. It's an oversight. Lack of intent, good faith belief. I mean, look, if he sees everybody else doing it, what's he supposed to think? His congressman is doing the same thing. Everybody in Washington, Howard Lutnick is the Commerce Secretary, setting up tariffs that he knows are going to get knocked down so he can turn around and buy them for 20 cents on the dollar for tariff refunds. I mean, the corruption's everywhere. I mean, if those guys are going to do it, maybe it's a big club, he ain't in it, but he's not supposed to know that. The bets were structured that avoided market impact or detection. 13 small bets, nobody would even notice, so there's no argument that he was disclosing anything classified, putting anybody at risk. As I mentioned, the information doesn't have to be classified for the New York federal court to come down on him, but these are still arguments that are going to be brought up. Selective prosecution, unequal enforcement, absolutely, this is a big one. The jury's going to see this even if they're not supposed to. Easy pickings, yeah. Bigger offenders get ignored. Constitutional and statutory challenges. Okay, the Commodity Exchange Act, what they're using is the Eddie Murphy rule. If everybody's seen trading places, you can't, the government can't trade on themselves. The government's attempting to criminalize routine speculation based on public news and analysis. So the post-rate account deletion, I mean, that's what actually brought up the attention, is that when he deleted the accounts, Polymarket reported that because it looked flaky. Somebody won a bunch of money and deleted the accounts, and that's what started the investigation. But that doesn't necessarily prove that he knew anything was illegal. He could have been just covering his tracks because whatever, he's not illegal to close your Polymarket account. So those are some of the things that his lawyer is probably going to bring up, other things I couldn't think of. But even if that doesn't go through at the federal court, he still could face UCMJ action, Article 92, 134, and 121, which is a long shot. That's wrongful appropriation of government information, depends, but 134 is an easy, the general article. That's the catch-all when they have nothing else to catch. We'll see. I do feel the frustration that a lot of other people feel. I mean, this guy was not an ordinary Green Beret. He was not a Delta Force operator, but he was a commo support guy with JSOC, which means he was supporting Delta Force. And this guy was as qualified. He was carrying a rifle. In many things, did a lot of the same training they do. He was not on the, the assault team, but they have to be pretty much at the same level to even be at that level. To be an E8 at 38 years old, in JSOC, the guy knew what he was doing. The guy's an asset. He shouldn't go to jail. But, people like this guy here are too busy arresting politicians doing insider trading. No, do that. Arrest soldiers doing insider. Oh, yeah, right. That's it. So anyway, I really hope that this guy either gets a pardon from Trump or something works out in his favor, because this is not the kind of thing that people need to see. If you're going to fight corruption, fight the corruption. Don't go after low-hanging fruit. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great day.